and welcome to Worst Quality Crab, a podcast of Asian American stories and recipes from best quality hearts. I'm your host, Frisia Lee. Joining me as always is my husband and producer, Sam.
Hello.
And joining us on this episode is pastry chef and baking instructor. She's currently residing in San Francisco Bay Area, and she runs a pop-up under Jessica Little Foo. Jessica, hi, welcome.
Hi, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm going to be very transparent about this. Jessica, you are maybe my first super cold DM that said yes, and we did it almost immediately.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a really long time. And I don't know why I'm saying this, but we're pulling back the curtain, whatever. But there was just something about your post and also your pastries that I was like, these are the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I must have her. That sounds terrible. Must have you on the show as a guest.
Okay.
I don't know what it was about you. I don't know what it was about your baking and just I guess you're also very good at shooting your food and making good content, but I was like, it's so beautiful. I want to talk to her. I must know.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm so bad at it because I feel like every time I bake or take a photo of anything, I'm always rushing. I'm such a last minute person that I never prepare for this. Everyone, when I see food stylists and they have all this beautiful setup, and I'm like, just this wooden board and my Canon, and that's it. That's all it's going to be. And it's going to be beautiful.
Maybe that's what I was drawn to because that is very much my vibe in life. But it's working. It's working great.
Awesome.
Let's get into the dish that you brought today because I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell us what your dish is, who was making it, where were you eating it? Are you eating it today? Which is what I really have questions about. Give us your backstory.
So the dish that I'm talking about today is bao. It's so funny because I was like, how do I even describe when you wrote describe your dish? And I was like, I don't know. Doesn't everyone know what bao is? But maybe not.
We know the bao part. It's the filling that is so interesting.
So it's specifically a steamed bao. And then it's got pork filling in it, and then vermicelli noodles, and then I forget it's honestly been so long since I've had it. Since the last time I probably had it was when my papa made it. My mother doesn't tend to make this one that often. I'm not sure why. She would still make the pot stickers she learned from papa, but she wouldn't really make the bao. I'm not sure if she's afraid to get it wrong or if she thinks oh, this is just never going to be as good. So I haven't had that version. Yeah. I haven't had that version in I don't know how long. So yes, I'm still very much eating bao. Now it's always made by my friend Henry, who I pop up with a lot. His versions are totally different though. I don't think I've had one like my papa's, and I don't even know because I just don't feel like they make it that way in a lot of restaurants. And then also I have I really don't like cilantro or ginger. And you're always going to find usually one of those in bao, especially ginger. And I can always taste it. If I bite into it and I taste the ginger, I'm like, okay, well, does somebody want my filling? And I will just eat all the bread because I don't want to eat this.
Oh, hey, you could be one of our children.
Yeah. So I've never actually made bao. It's one of those things where it's I always tell people I'm a pastry chef, and I want to emphasize pastry because I think people just hear chef and they're like, oh my gosh, so you know how to make everything. And I'm like, no, I really don't. I think any kind of savory cooking always scares me a little bit. So I've never made bao, but I want to. It's definitely on the list, but I haven't gotten to it. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. I want to talk about the filling because yes, I think not everybody, a lot of people are very familiar with bao in just the form of steamed bun, char siu bao, whatever, that sort of thing. But this specifically with the vermicelli, I was reading your description and I was like, I don't think I know what this one is. Have I ever had this? Then I asked Sam, did you know?
I did not know, and I actually tried to Google around and find some sort of a vermicelli and meat combination bao, and I found only one, which was a beef and vermicelli in a bao form. And that was it.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. I know. It was funny because my mom would always be like, I love the papas because she has the noodles in there. Nobody does that. And I was like, is this actually really unique? I don't know, but I don't ever see it. So I feel like it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which kudos. I think you brought one of our only unique dishes.
Okay.
I'm like a carb on carb person. So like potato on a pizza, potato on a bread. There's a lot of potatoes and things. But the idea of like a noodle in a bao just really, really spoke to me. So
I know
much.
I should just try to make it or get my friend Henry to make it because he's so good at making bao and I'm really bad at it.
So did you grow up just thinking that this was at every dim sum place, you just weren't ordering it?
No, I knew it was special because like anytime we would go out to a Chinese restaurant, we'd order some kind of bao. I'd be like, this is not as good as Popo's. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, most of the time, the only bao I actually really see, like the steamed kind, is the chashu bao. I never really see any other kind of fillings unless I'm going to like a stall or a stand. But like at dim sum restaurants, I don't really see the same kind of like bao that I'm like imagining.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess I'm really impressed because to me, bao is one of those things, to your point of like, it seems like a thing you don't want to get wrong.
Yes.
To me, it seems like an impossible thing to make. Like this falls to me under the like, who could ever make this in the home? And so I must only get it at restaurants and at like takeaway dim sum places and things like that. But obviously, it can be made in the home. And obviously, it can be made with like far less sophisticated equipment than I have, which is really not that much, but still. But it just seems so intimidating.
It definitely, I feel like the dough part, I'm like, okay, I think I can get this. But like the fillings are what always freak me out. Like having the right,
wait.
oh my gosh, yeah.
I thought it was, for me, it's the total opposite.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's why you're a pastry chef. Because to me, I'm like, the filling is whatever. Like, it might not be perfect, but, you know, as long as you put good things in it that taste good together, once you steam it, it will be good. But the dough part, like, any number of things could go wrong in my mind. I don't know what those things are, but it just feels like they could come out very poorly. But that's clearly, like, people make it at home all the time, like your pawpaw.
Yes, definitely.
So have you ever made just the bread part?
I have not, but I actually have taught a workshop or co-taught a workshop. The other person was teaching bao. And like in between me trying to like set up for my like portion of the class, I was like trying to watch how she did it. And it seemed like, you know, like at least the dough that she chose didn't seem too hard, but every time I like watch these kind of workshops, they're always like have the pre-made fillings, you know? And like I hadn't really thought about it until I like worked with other chefs, like how important like the meat grind is on it and like how like wet things are and like getting the ratios perfect. So all of that just intimidates me to no end. And then I bought the bao book from that London shop that has like a bunch of restaurants. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm really going to get serious. I'm going to make this bao. And then their recipes are so complicated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a 2 or 3 day process. I don't know if I can do this right now.
No, your pawpaw was not spending 3 days on it. Nobody's pawpaw spent 3 days on it.
I know. I was like, wow, they're like really giving you the recipes from the restaurant, which I super appreciate. But also I'm like, I am not ready for this quite yet.
It's so interesting because I thought we were going to get on here and you're going to be like, yeah, I'm a fabulous pastry chef, but also I can't do this flour, water, dough bun thing. And here you are. Nope, just afraid of the savory, which I get. You're a pastry chef.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. Then I guess I'm going to have that conversation with someone else. It's fine. Or I should just try making it.
Yeah. Definitely.
You should try we should both try making it. How about that?
Yeah, maybe we should try making it. And maybe we'll have like bring my friend Henry because he teaches how to make them. And he's gonna be like, this is so easy. What are you two so scared about?
Failure. Duh.
Exactly.
My Asian lineage that says I cannot fail at anything, Henry. Obviously.
Oh my goodness. Well, do you cook a lot?
Sam cooks more.
Okay.
Largely out of logistics. It's not that I can't or won't. But he works from home more, and so he just does a lot more cooking. And I think also he is a little bit less rigid with things in a good way, where he's like, I'm just going to make it. And I'm like, I have to think it all out. And have I got everything just right?
I'm totally that way.
Except for the times when I'm like, oh, I have a half can of coconut milk. Let's turn this into something. So it's very wishy-washy for me. It could be any number of things.
Do you recall any other ingredients that your papa put into the filling besides like pork and the vermicelli?
I should have like just called my mother and asked her about it, but I want to say there actually wasn't too much more besides like spices and stuff because I feel like she kept it very simple because she knew, we didn't like certain things like ginger or cilantro. Like there's probably scallions in it. But yeah, I feel like she kept it very simple for us.
Do you think this was like I'm running low on pot sticker filling. I must bulk it up in volume. I will add noodles.
I have no idea. I didn't even think about it like that. That's actually, yeah, I don't know. I think she just liked the flavor and texture of having those extra noodles in there because it just adds a little bit of something that I just love. Yeah.
I do love those noodles. For everyone at home, they're like the very thin, glassy. This is a bad description.
No, that sounds about right. Okay. I know. I was like, should I call it something else? It's like, does everybody know what vermicelli noodles means?
Look it up, listener. If you're curious, look it up. They're very good. They heat up very quickly. They almost require no cooking. Like you can just kind of cook them in hot water, basically. Like not boiling even.
My favorite carb for hot pot is vermicelli noodles.
What was it like as a child seeing your papa make these? Did she make them in like big batches or like did you visit her to eat them or?
So I actually never got to see her make them. She would always just come over and then have a bunch of them for us to eat. That is something I feel like I should just ask my mom. Maybe mom, can we just do this together? Make some bao together. She makes wonderful pot stickers and she does all of her doughs from scratch and everything. So I feel like bao should not be too much harder for her.
Has she ever made a bao to your recollection, your mom?
She has, yeah. She's definitely done it. I want to say it didn't taste exactly the same, but it's one of those things where like if you haven't had it in a while, you have this idea of it in your mind. So when you eat it again and it like doesn't measure up to that, you're like, this is not the same. It's not as good. So
that's so relatable.
Yeah, she normally does pot stickers though. That's her thing, which I'm totally happy with. I love pot stickers.
Do you make pot stickers? Where does your like chef line end at savory versus sweet? Like
this past like Lunar New Year, we made pot stickers together. But like when I say that, my mother made everything beforehand and we basically just assembled them. So that doesn't really count.
It's not nothing.
Yeah, I like need to sit and like actually make the dough with her and then make the fillings. And yeah, when it comes into like Chinese savory cooking, I just get so nervous because there's such like specific techniques and ingredients. And I just feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I'm like not good at stuff like that. Unless I have like a recipe that tells me like line by line how to do things. I can't, I have a very pastry mindset. I need to have it all like spelled out for me. I can't just like wing it because when I do, it tastes terrible.
That can't be true.
No, it's definitely true. I feel like I've made like just like a salad and I'll be like trying to wing the dressing and I'm like, this is terrible. Why was I allowed to make this? But yeah, but I've definitely learned like some things from watching chefs that I've worked with, like at Stomo Matcha. My old chef there, Kevin, he was just like so incredible. And he would always like, I don't know, anytime I would ask about things, he'd always be willing to share. So I loved that. And I'm trying to be better at savory because I've noticed like even with savory baking, just like more people can eat savory pastries than they can eat sweets, obviously. And so like a lot of people are wanting more savory bakes on menus. So I'm trying to like move into that realm, but I always get sucked back into the sweet side. So
that's because it's the best side. End statement. Oh, wait, I want to go back. Were you watching your mom cook a lot growing up, or was she very like, I've got this, get out of my kitchen?
So it's interesting. Actually, my dad is the one who cooked more.
Oh, okay.
He used to work in a restaurant. Any kind of like remembering of like any cooking, it was mostly my dad. Like I remember seeing my mom make pot stickers and she'd sometimes make green onion pancakes. But apart from like a couple of those dishes, my dad is usually the one who did a lot of the cooking. Like he always makes chicken broth from scratch. And it's like the really nice, clear chicken broth that I like love, like no other like alliums or carrots or anything like that. It's just pure chicken broth. So
were you watching him cook while you were growing up?
I did. I definitely was. But then I also was like sneaking, trying to watch TV because, it's like a Chinese household. No, you can't watch TV. You just have to like do your homework. So if they were busy, distracted, I'm like, maybe I can sneak in an episode of something before they catch me.
Okay, then in that case, where did your love of pastry come from? I guess what I'm getting at is like, how do people who end up working with and in food end up there? And like, what was the journey like from whatever, childhood food memories? Because it seems like, I guess I'm very impressed by people that know what they want to do at a fairly young age and just like really do that, especially with something that is so universal. Like everybody eats food. Like, how did you know you wanted to go into food?
It's interesting. I would say like, I don't feel like I actually wanted to do pastry from a young age. Like besides like getting stuff from Chinese bakeries or having Chinese like banquet desserts, I'm not really familiar with too much of like how to actually make Chinese pastry. And my parents are both immigrants. They're not well versed in like French style, European style bakery and how to make those things. So we didn't make like chocolate chip cookies growing up, or we didn't do like, I don't know. We just didn't make any of those when I was younger. So I don't think I actually really got into baking until college. I was just dating somebody who like had a KitchenAid mixer, which I never even knew what was. And I was like, and their family loved baking. And I was like, this is really fun. I'm into this. And then, like when Food Network became like this huge thing, I started watching all those shows. And then, I was just like, I think I'm actually kind of good at this. So maybe like this is something I want to do. But it's just, my parents were at the beginning, like not very like, this is not, no, you can't just go to like pastry school. You have to go to college. You got to get like, they're like, you can't just graduate and go into a restaurant. So it was something that's just been like a hobby of mine until I actually felt more settled in life. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I definitely got into this industry a little bit later in life when I was a little bit older. It's weird. Like, I don't feel like I fit sometimes this industry just because like, you hear about like all the like things about how people were treated in the kitchens and things like that. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to be treated like that. I think my first job, I was there maybe like a week and a half. Someone yelled at me and I was like, oh no, I am too old for this. I am not getting yelled at. So I just like put in my notice. I was like, no, I don't care if people are like supposed to like stick it out for a year or be loyal. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm like older. I'm not going to waste my time in the place where I'm just going to get yelled at and not learn anything. So
good for you.
Good for you.
I do think that like learning what you like in college is still young, to be clear, because I feel like at my age, I'm still like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'm like, I'm grown. Ugh. So credit to you is what I'm saying. And I'm fascinated by it. That's all.
But I definitely like loved food growing up just because like from my family. But, like I'm not sure if your parents are like this, but they're like, Chinese food is the best. We got to eat this all the time, 24/7. Nothing is better. So
whichever way Sam is on your screen, I'm pointing.
My family was like that.
Yeah.
Sam, take it over.
Pretty much like everything is like China invented everything. So China is the best basically at food.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I didn't get into like the whole Bay Area scene until later when my sister got really into like trying new restaurants and stuff. I was like, oh, there's like all these restaurants here. I didn't even know about this. So
were you going out to eat Chinese food a lot, or were your parents cooking it? I guess your dad worked in a restaurant. So
yeah, we went out to eat a lot because originally my dad had wanted to like own a family restaurant and that just didn't pan out. So he ended up owning an insurance business. And a lot of his thing that he did was like commercial insurance. So he insured a lot of Chinese restaurants. So we would always try to go to his clients' places. I'm trying to like remember where we went when we were little. I just remember going to Chinatown, Oakland Chinatown a lot. Yeah. I feel like a lot of those restaurants that we went to are not around anymore. Like one of his favorites is Mayflower down in Milpitas. And yeah, always going out to eat.
I mean, that's a pretty good way to be like, oh, I have to go check on clients.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Hi, client. Would you like to feed us while we're here? I don't hate that. You have sort of talked about both of like having Chinese food cooked in the home, also going out to eat a lot, and then sort of your relationship to getting it right and like being a little bit afraid of the savory side of things. And I just like, I'm never going to solve this, but I have this like ongoing theory / question with people of like, if you ate a lot of Chinese food out, then it feels more intimidating to cook it at home, I think, for me. And I've just, every time we have a guest, I'm like, what's your relationship to that? Because Sam grew up eating almost exclusively Chinese food at home that his mom made. And I feel like because of that, he's much more like adventurous and he'll just like try to cook things that she made. Whereas like I grew up with a lot of restaurant Chinese food. And so I'm like, I can't make it restaurant quality. I can't make it at all.
I feel like also like a lot of my favorite dishes, when I actually go and like look at how to make those things, I'm like, this is really hard. And this is like, takes like a lot of ingredients that I just don't have. I'm like, I don't know, my pantry doesn't have all of the Chinese ingredients. I kind of have like a pantry with like all different types of things. So like sometimes I don't even have like oyster sauce in my pantry, which I know is like, what? You don't even have oyster sauce in your pantry? But yeah, I'm definitely very intimidated by making a lot of, especially because I'm just like, but I could just go and buy this. And I think I'm just going to do that. It's like,
that's real.
Yeah. I'm just like, this is going to take me way longer and I'm going to get really stressed out. And I have so many baking projects. Maybe I'll just go buy it instead. But like whenever I try to learn new recipes, I want to learn it the way that it should like traditionally made and then try to spin on it. So I know there's a lot of like shortcut ways to do things nowadays. And then, which I definitely am like, go for it if that's easier. But I think anytime I want to learn a new dish, I really want to learn like how they did it traditionally first and then simplify it or change it up.
What is appealing about that to you or like important about that for you?
I just feel like knowing how it was meant to be made and then also like how, I don't know, how people made it before me and like also what ingredients like go into it. Like I don't want to take first time I make something like, oh, I don't have rock sugar, so can I substitute with something else? No, I'm like, let's try and see how it tastes like the first time. It's kind of just like how it is with like, even with baking, like when people try to make substitutions like right off the bat, they're like, oh, well, I don't eat this, so I'm just gonna throw this out, or I don't have this kind of sugar, so I'm just gonna use, and then expect a result to come out the same. And it's like, I just want to see how to make it like with everything that it was intended to have in it and how to like, and see how it tastes that, you know, like I don't want to just go off the bat acting like, oh yes, I can do this. I can sub out all these things and it's going to come out perfect.
I'm the baking one. I'm guilty. Yeah. I mean, no, I totally hear you. And sometimes I will go out of my way and be like, yes, I must get all of the appropriate flours and measure them in their exact and all of that. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm going to start baking this thing and then realize like, oh, I only have light brown sugar. I don't have dark brown sugar. Well, here we go.
Yeah. Well, how does it come? Does it still come out delicious?
I mean, I guess my thing is like, and this is why I challenge you on like your salad dressing being so terrible, but like, as long as it tastes good, I'm okay with that. Like, I know that I have baked any number of dozens of cookies that like should have been crispier, should have been chewier, could have been whatever. But did we eat chocolate chip cookies at the end of the day? Yes, we did.
I love that. I should definitely try to look at it more like that.
Well, and I mean, I think that like also follow up, like what are the dishes that you're ordering that are so difficult? But like there are some, and especially for like Thai food for some reason, where I'm like, I'll just get it close enough and then it'll sort of like scratch the itch. And then I'll like be like, oh, is it worth it to keep investing in making this recipe better?
Mm-hmm.
And so I almost look at it like reverse of like, let me just do sort of like what is base, easy, like a minimum viable product on this dish. And then if I like it and it seems like easy enough to kind of like get it better, then I'll work on, you know, tweaking it and trying to like make it tastier, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're opposite. Cool. Good for us. But what are the dishes that you're making that are like difficult? Because I'm curious like what you love that you would rather just order.
Well, one of them is like just that pork belly with that super crispy skin. I was like watching a reel about it one time because I was like, there's this guy who makes these reels in Hawaii that I love. And I was like, wait, is it this complicated to do this when I was watching? Because sometimes I just like I will look at it for like a reel. Like let me see a shortened version of how you're supposed to do this. So I can be like, okay, this is definitely something I need more time to tackle. So like when I was like seeing like the drying out, like stabbing the skin, I was like, wait, I have to do all of these things to make this dish. But I could just go to Chinatown and just buy like a slab of it and then eat that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things like that.
Okay, I was going to say you should look at Christina Cho's new book, Chinese Enough, because she has a recipe for that in the book. But hers does also have a drying out and stabbing of the skin portion, which is not hard. I know that you can stab a knife in things.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is time.
Yeah, like I didn't realize it's gonna like I can't eat this today. I have to eat this like 3 days from now.
I see.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I've definitely watched videos where it's like, oh, this is the food hack version of the crispy pork skin, and it's like, oh, it's still too complicated.
It's still like
too
6
many
hours.
steps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've also watched some reels and I, read Christina's recipe and her story along with it. And I was like, this doesn't seem as impossible as I think it is. Cause I'm like, I can't hang a pig up. How would I ever cook this? It's not how that works. But it is like I have to do a lot of planning. And I don't like to do that. So
yeah,
I can see where like just the time and planning alone is a barrier to entry.
Yeah, exactly. I think so one time I worked this pop-up and then the chef had all this extra duck for like Peking duck. And I was like, oh my gosh, but like not baked or like not cooked, obviously, just he literally did all of the prep that goes for it. Wow. And then I just couldn't even I was freaking out the whole time trying to bake this thing. I had to text all my friends, what temperature should I do this at? What am I supposed to be doing? Do I need to dry this out any further? Oh my gosh. And they're just like, Jessica, just cook it. It's going to taste delicious. I have to do this perfectly because I feel like all this prep work has already been done for me and I can't mess this up. But I baked it. It was delicious. I don't know if I did it correctly, but I did get crispy skin. So that's a win, I guess. Yeah.
The only thing that matters.
Yeah. Exactly.
At some point, the meat doesn't even matter if the skin is good.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love a crispy skin.
I hear a lot of your perfectionism coming out, Jessica.
Yes. It's definitely something I need to calm. Sometimes my husband is like, Jessica, I think it's okay if we just bring our standards down just a little bit. And I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. I'm just not doing it. I can't do it. So something I got to work on.
I mean, I'm taking everything in me not to go into the your Chinese immigrant parent upbringing and perfectionism. We can just leave it there. It's fine. But actually, I don't want to make assumptions. Maybe that wasn't true of your household. I don't know.
No, I feel like that was very much true.
I feel like that makes for a really good pastry chef and baker, though. Precision.
Yes, that's definitely very, very true.
Nice. Do your parents appreciate now that you work in food?
Yes. I think when I first really started taking this career seriously, she was like, oh, it's okay. Look at Joanne. Do you guys know Joanne Chang? She owns Flour in Boston.
Oh, I've heard of.
Yeah. And my mother's just like, oh yeah, she graduated from Harvard. And now look at her. She has 5 different chains. That's who you can be. So I think there's always going to be that, you need to aspire to be the top of your game, making tons of money from this. She loves my cakes. So I think she's always hoping that I'm just going to you need to automate this, there's all these machines, in China that can do this and stuff like that. So I think they're always trying to dream way bigger for me. And I very much appreciate that. But at the moment, I'm very happy with just being my small little pop-ups.
Yeah.
So
I never thought about cake machines, basically. Cake robots.
Oh my goodness. It's crazy. I remember working at this one place and they were thinking about actually having factories in Japan make some of the cakes for us. And they sent back samples from Japan and they did these chiffon cakes that were so good. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this better than what we can do? Because it's a machine whipping up these egg whites and getting them perfect and folding them in versus human error on our side. Yeah.
That's funny because I feel like up until this moment, I was like, oh no, being a pastry chef is one of those like, you can't replace me with a robot type of jobs.
Yes.
But maybe robots can replace us for everything.
Hopefully not the creativity aspect of it.
That's true.
Just like the technical, maybe. I don't know. That's also very scary to think about.
Wait, let's talk about the creativity aspect of it, because again, your cakes are so beautiful.
Thank you.
Where is that? Like, I mean, and they're, to describe for listeners, like they're very like pretty is in the best way. Like, you know, they're not like these like carved geometrical whatever. They're like very pretty, like flowers and like pastel colors, and just like they're so cheery in a way too. I don't know. I'm not doing a very great job, but like, where does your sort of aesthetic sense come from? And have you always had that?
I haven't always had that. I feel like I am guilty of being like one of those people who needs to like look at Instagram for like hours for inspiration, because I just like, but then in the end, like it's just sometimes, you know, it's like information overload. You're just like, oh my gosh, there's like so many designs. I can't. I need to like just focus. Part of the thing is like what dictates my design is also just that I do mostly whipped cream cakes. And most of the cakes you'll see out there, like especially on Instagram, are buttercream, and they're just, not to get all technical, but they're very like different like mediums. Like buttercream is something like you just can keep re-whipping and it's super stable. And you know, whereas whipped cream, you definitely can't do any of that. It's like you have to work so quickly because it will over whip, and then it's also less stable. So a lot of the designs I try to do is like very flowy, just like organic with the whipped cream. You know, I am always trying to get that very super smooth edge, but like if I try and strive to only do that, then sometimes I'm just like over whipping the cream as I'm like watching it swirl on the cake. And it's like, you know what? No, it just like I've started doing more piping because I feel like, okay, so this part isn't perfectly smooth. That's okay. We can just have like a nice, beautiful ribbon of piping on it. And then I started getting into like the flowers because of, yeah, obviously I saw it on Instagram a lot. One of the things that does bother me though is like sometimes I see a lot of flowers that I'm like, that's so beautiful, I'm going to use that. But then you'll like look it up and you're like, that's totally toxic or non-edible. And then I'm like, just kidding. I'm not putting that on my cake. I try to always use at least non-toxic flowers. I prefer to use flowers that are actually technically edible. So that always makes it a little bit harder, especially if you have somebody who's very specific about what they want. But because I just do this like very small, like little business, I'm like, no design requests. You're just going to get what you get. Like no flower requests. This is it. Cause like, I know people do get like, have those requests, but then they charge for it. And I'm like, I don't want to really charge like a crazy amount on my cakes here. I already think I charge kind of a lot, but that's just the cost of ingredients. So I'm like, no, this is it. Like, just trust me. You're going to like it. It's beautiful. And if you like see my Instagram, you know, I always think it's funny when they give me a reference photo that's not my Instagram. I'm like, well, that's, I mean, I guess I could do that. But if you want to look at the things on my website or my Instagram, that's probably better.
Yeah.
I can probably replicate that better than I can what you just sent me.
Like, you could just go to that person also.
Exactly. Like, that person probably will make the cake for you too.
Okay, I love that you do whipped cream cakes, because now we're going to talk about Chinese bakeries. I've been waiting for this. First of all, why whipped cream cakes for you? Like, why is that your chosen cake?
It's just because it's what I like to eat and what I grew up with.
Yes.
I think because like even in pastry school, we're always taught buttercream cakes. And I'm just like, I'm just going to stop acting like this is my favorite, like my choice of cake. I don't want to eat these. So I'm just going to start doing whipped cream cakes. And sometimes I really regret that, because making whipped cream cakes is like so much harder. And anytime I get like a request to have buttercream on the outside, I'm like, this is so easy. I could do this so much quicker. Why don't I just do all my cakes like this? But yeah, because I grew up with whipped cream cakes. So
yeah, I was talking to someone recently. She's like a quarter Chinese, and she always had like a, you know, whipped cream fruit cake for her birthday, and she never knew what it was called. And it took her a long time of like, she's also a teacher and then a substitute teacher, of just like asking kids like, what is this cake called? What? And she was there. The kids were like, birthday cake. It's just called birthday cake. And she's like, no, but I had this for my, and they're like, yeah, it's called birthday cake. Which I was thinking about because I was like, you know what? I don't think I have a name for it either. Like sometimes it's like fruit cake, but it's not like a fruit cake.
No, yeah.
Very different, listeners.
Yes.
Jessica, describe these lovely cakes for us, please, so that everyone can be on board with us.
Yeah. It's so funny. When I taught the workshop, I was like, I have to like explicitly say Chinese bakery style cakes, even though that's not at all what I called them growing up. But like you said, like they're just a birthday cake. So they're basically like a light sponge cake with whipped cream and fresh fruit. And then when I was growing up, it was always kind of like, I feel like it was always like a random mix of fruits, like kiwis, strawberries, like blueberries, whatever.
Oh, a blueberry?
Yep.
That's fancy.
It's usually a chiffon cake. I think some people do genoa cakes, but it's very light and no buttercream, which is nice. Where did you get them when you were growing up?
That's a great question. I actually don't remember them until maybe more like teen years.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting now is like, so my family grew up with them and like my aunt still really likes them. Everybody still likes them. But we kind of strayed away for a long time. Actually, now I'm like, oh my God, what did we have for birthdays when I was a child? I have no memory. I don't. I can't recall. But the farthest I can go back is like we would do, for a long time, we've been doing birthday cakes from Schubert's, which is in our neighborhood.
Oh
and it's
my
like,
gosh, I love
old
Schubert's.
school
Yeah.
German, very classic cakes. A lot of mousse cakes. So my family's really into the mousse cakes. And at some point, like, I was just like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of Schubert's. I would like to revert. And so, there's any number of bakeries on Clement where we could get one, but there was one in particular, and they have since closed. You could just go in and you could get like a small one, like a 6-inch for maybe like $12.
Oh my gosh, that's so cheap.
It was so cheap. And they were like, yeah, they're in the case. They're right there. So I could just go like get a cake for no reason. And so there was a point where like, I think we had a Super Bowl party and I was like, I'm going to get a cake. Because why not? And then we got tasked with bringing cakes for birthdays. And so for a while I was like, oh, okay, pick your Schubert's cake, blah, blah. And then at some point someone was like, whatever, you pick. And I was like, okay, guess what we're getting? So I feel like I've been the one to bring them back to my family. And then they're like, oh, yeah, these are good. We forgot. Like, yeah, duh. And they're like half the price. So that's like my relationship to them. But they are just the best. Like, they're so light. They're so fluffy. I could eat a piece, half the size of my head. And like, I wouldn't feel great, but I wouldn't feel as bad as if I ate half that size of Schubert's cake or Costco.
Oh, so true.
And yeah, I don't know. There's just something that feels very nice about like that pink box with the string.
Oh my gosh, the string. I love that. So nostalgic.
Yeah. And just like some old Chinese lady being like, write down on this slip of paper what you want the writing to say in this red every single time. And it's like a little bit crooked and that's fine.
But did you love the princess cakes from Schubert's?
Oh, I still love the princess cake from Schubert's.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's like one of my all-time favorite cakes.
Yeah.
I love princess cake.
Oh, no. See, that's the thing. I won't say no to a Schubert's, but when I am tasked with bringing the cake and someone says, like, get whatever, I'm like, well, I could get the $60 one or I could get the $30 one. And the $30 one is more enjoyable to me. So
yeah.
Guess what?
Well, have you had any of like the new modern like whipped cream cakes from like, I don't know, all these pastry chefs coming out with them?
No. Tell me where.
And as I'm saying this, I'm like, do I know anybody? Well, I know there's me, but
I know, I was going to say, besides also, you.
Yeah. Oh, there's grand opening. She sells out of Mr. Jew's, and she does a lot of whipped cream cakes. And then there's my friend Audrey, boutique and baker. She also does whipped cream cakes. And then there's a place called Sesame Tiny Bakery in the East Bay in Berkeley, and she does whipped cream cakes too. So I'm like, get so excited that there's more people doing it now. I'm like, yes, embrace the whipped cream. Let's do it.
Well, and like, I'll make an assumption here, but based on someone selling out of Mr. Jew's, it sounds like these are Asian bakers.
Yes. So she used to be the pastry chef there.
Okay.
And now she has her own pop-up called Grand Opening.
Nice.
So.
I love that because it's, in a lot of ways bringing this old Chinese style bakery run by someone else's pawpaw to a new generation and like a new spin on it. And I don't know, I really love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to go eat all these cakes.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, I do love a good buttercream. I don't love all buttercreams, but a good buttercream is excellent.
That's very true.
But like, yeah, that more types of cakes exist. And I guess because I'm aging into my like old Chinese mom phase where I'm like, oh, buttercream's too sweet. Whipped cream cakes.
Yes.
Just right.
Are we in the middle of a whipped cream cake renaissance?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
I hope
It sounds like it.
You heard it here first, folks.
Well, what's so interesting is that I've noticed that a lot more bakers now, like they're actually doing like more like whipped cream fillings, but they'll always coat the outside in buttercream. I don't know if it's like for stability or if it's like, so I'm like, so you get it. You get that the whipped cream is like superior, right? And then one of my favorite cake makers, she said it. She was like, we all know buttercream's not great. It's just like very stable. It's holding everything up, but that's why I don't fill it with buttercream. I fill it with other delicious fillings. And I'm like, see, people are getting it. The whipped cream, the way to go.
Okay, I only want to eat cake now. This was a bad idea. Oh, boy. Oh, I know how we started eating those cakes again. A friend of mine, her mom would get one for every occasion.
Oh.
And her mom would cut notoriously large pieces. Because she would just get like the big like half sheet, which was, probably like
that's huge.
$50, whatever. And so she'd just be like, here's a big corner piece. And I was like, this is too big. Oh, nope, just kidding. It's whipped cream and this light cake. I did the whole thing. It's great.
It's great. There's all this fresh fruit. It's fabulous. It's totally fun.
Yeah. Canned mandarin orange in here? Yes, please. Piece of pineapple? Great. Were your parents big into cakes and pastry when you were a kid?
It's funny, like I'm similar to you where I'm like, can I remember when I would eat these cakes when I was little? Like I have photos. So I'm like, okay, so there is a cake there. Do I remember how I felt in that moment? I don't know. But my dad always likes to get like Dan's Hot. He was like, I'm going to go to Chinatown every day so I can get my Chinese newspaper, stop by the local bakery shop and get some Dan Hot, milk bread, hot dog buns, and everything like that. So
sounds familiar.
In that sense, yeah, that's like the pastries they would eat. I don't think they were like huge into like American pastries just because they tended to have like a ton of sugar. And like even now, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my parents, but I'm just like, oh, things are so sweet. I can't take it. I don't want to eat this anymore. And I'm just like, ugh. But yeah, so now like, and my family will say they're spoiled and they'll just be like, we don't want to eat any of those other sweets. We just want to eat the sweets from Jessica. Which is very nice. Yeah. They're very sweet about that. Yeah.
Also, no pressure on you to just keep delivering sweets all of the time.
Exactly.
Is it genetic that we just age out of sugar? Like what is that?
I don't know. I'm like, I always thought it was like your taste buds get worse or something. And then like, I feel like my dad's like always over salting things because he can't taste it as well. But then I feel like I'm becoming more sensitive to sugar. So I don't know what it is.
Where are our scientists listeners who does genetic research? Somebody answer this question for us.
I know.
Should I keep expecting this for the rest of my life? Like, will I just age into fruit only?
Exactly.
Someone please answer this for me. Thank you, listeners. Tell your friends, ask your network. We need to know. Jessica's future business depends on this answer to an extent. Like, does she have to change her clientele? It's fine. Hard pivot. Growing up for you in the East Bay, I'd imagine was a little bit different than growing up in San Francisco where I did. Like, probably not as Chinese.
No. So I grew up in Piedmont. It's predominantly white. I mean, there were definitely other Chinese kids, and those are like obviously the people like I gravitated towards. I will say like we lived like on the Piedmont Oakland border, which you would think like doesn't make a difference, but it does. Like when you're not like in the inner Piedmont. I don't know. Are you too familiar with Piedmont?
I know roughly where it is, and I know about it.
So it's like a very small town, completely surrounded by Oakland. Probably, I feel like it's like smaller than like UC Berkeley, but it's really known for its school system. It has a great public school system, but of course you have to live in Piedmont to go to that school. And that is what drives up the prices in Piedmont. So it's kind of expensive to live there. And then I just also think my mom worked a full-time job. So she wasn't always like able to do like what I would say like PTA meetings or go like hang out with the other Piedmont moms. She was like running from going to her job to taking us to all of her different like activities, So I always felt we were a little bit, I guess, like separate from like the community there, We didn't grow up going to like their turkey trots or like watching the 4th of July parade, things like that.
No one should grow up going to a turkey trot.
Most of the people there are white. So it's like not really something I can like really relate to. And it's funny when you're little, you don't realize all of those things. You don't realize that like, you're different and you like want to be just like everybody else, but you don't realize like how special it is to be different. And like, now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud I'm Chinese. Like, what was I even thinking when I was younger?
Wait, what were you thinking when you were younger?
I don't know, like stupid things. Like my mom would try to pack pot stickers in like my lunchbox. I'm like, no, Mom, those like when they get cold, they smell like, kind of like farty when you open them when you're eating. I'm like, we can't pack those. Everyone's going to stare at me. And like, I just kind of kept to myself. And like one time our assignment was to write down idioms. And, it's like, it's one of those things, like, I was like, what's an idiom? And then I didn't want to feel like everybody's like off doing their idiom thing. And I'm like, what is this? Like, am I not like stupid? And I'm just realizing like, it's just one of those things. If you would only know if you grew up with parents who live here, like my parents don't know what an idiom is. They're not going to say any of those like things. It's like, it just felt like not tailored for for me and my upbringing. So very much, yeah. When I got out of Piedmont, I was like, I'm done with this place. I'm good. I don't ever need to go. I think I have like only a couple people I talk to from, I would say like I've lost more in college. Like that's when I was like, you know what? I'm seeing more people, meeting more people that I can relate to. So it was very interesting growing up in this town, but very safe.
Would she agree to not packing pot stickers, or was she like, nope, you get them anyway?
I feel like she always like let us just do it. Yeah, I feel like she was like, okay, fine, you don't have to have it. And then we would just, go, like we'd ask for money so we can go buy food at the school. And I think I asked my mom, like, I want like Lunchables like everybody else. And those are really gross now that I think about it. It's like, why do I want to eat this? Nothing about this feels wholesome or healthy.
I think that was the point.
I know. All that prepackaged meat and like really gross looking cheese. I don't know. I don't know why I even pretended like I liked those. I definitely didn't.
Sometimes someone will give our kids Lunchables, just like a relative that will like go grocery shopping and she'll come by and give us stuff. And she'll be like, oh, I got these for the kids. And I'm like, the kids aren't going to eat these.
Are they any different now? Or
no,
are they just
exactly the same?
Oh my gosh.
They might be the same ones. They look exactly how I remember them from child. I did not eat them as a child because I was vegetarian. So I just looked on longingly as my friends stacked their pressed meat and cheese-like squares onto crackers.
Then what did you have for lunch?
On a good day, I had ramen.
Oh.
That was like my number one banger lunch. I don't know. I remember like sometimes I would have like peanut butter and jelly, or it would be like a combination of like that and like a soy yogurt and grapes or whatever. I just remember like a lot of little things and ramen.
Interesting.
That was the one time where I could actually like get in on the trades with my friends because they were like, oh yeah, we like that one. Like we want to have bites too.
Wait, was this in elementary school?
That was in elementary school. By middle school, I was like a bagel and cream cheese or money. And then I would go buy whatever. And then I stopped being vegetarian then. So I could like buy more things.
Okay.
Yeah. And then high school, we had open campus.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. We could kind of do whatever. but also that was like money management. Be like, here's your money for the week. And I was like, okay, if I just get a 50-cent bagel for a couple of days, I can save up for the big lunch. God, our kids don't know how good they have it.
I know, seriously.
Okay, personal question. Is your husband Asian?
No, he's white.
How does that impact your eating? Is the real question. And then,
well, it's actually like, it doesn't even have anything to do with like being, I feel like that he's not Chinese. It's more about the fact that my husband, he already has like digestion issues. So he's very specific about what he'll eat and he's very healthy. And then there was one time where he was like, I think that like carbohydrates like irritate my stomach. So he just took them out of his diet and he's like, I don't miss them. And I was like, what? So sometimes it's very hard because I'm like, I can't really share pizza with him or like, or like he won't eat rice very often. So like if we go to sushi, he always gets like a sashimi over salad. Yeah, I know. But he does love really good bread. You know, if I buy a loaf of like Base Camp Bakery bread or something, he's always like, oh yeah, this is such good bread. Yes, carbs are great.
Had you not said the thing about bread, I was going to say you were married to a monster. I'm so sorry. I don't understand. I understand carbs don't make me feel good. I don't understand. Yeah. I don't miss them.
I know. He's like, I don't crave them. And I was like, I am always craving carbs. I don't care what day it is or what time it is. I will always have a carb in my meal. So he's very healthy, but he's willing to try anything. And like, he always goes to like the Chinese family banquets and, you know, he loves all the food there. So we definitely choose to cook like more healthy, I guess. When we do cook, it's just like, you know, vegetables and some kind of lean protein, which is not always like, you know, but like we do it very well. And I feel like working actually in this industry has given me another appreciation of like vegetables, just like really good produce. Cause like working at some of these restaurants, like having good produce was so important. And like the kind of things that people could do with vegetables, I'm like, you know what, vegetables are awesome. I love them. And they're so tasty. I'm definitely all for it, having more vegetables in my diet.
It's not the worst. Jessica, this has been super fun. I want to keep talking and keep getting to know you, and maybe we will on a subsequent episode. But for now, I think, you know, we have learned a lot about you, and I think we have to go back and revisit your very specific bao and see if we can maybe collectively figure this out. Like you do the dough part that I'm terrified of, and we'll work on the meat part that you're terrified of.
Yes.
And together we can sort of like collab a bao.
Team effort.
Perhaps.
That sounds perfect.
Listeners at home, we will... You know what? We're going to post the beef version that Sam found so that you can experiment from that base recipe, listeners. And you will, if you sub it with pork, you will pretend that it is Jessica's pawpaw's recipe because that one also looked really good. And then as we figure this out in this collab effort, we'll come back and we'll update with a pork version. Look at me making plans.
We'll share it with you first, Jessica, and like get your commentary.
Yeah. We'll have to do some like rounds of taste testing, obviously, for science. Jessica, where can people find you?
So I have my Instagram handle under Jessica Little Foo, and then I also have a website under Jessica L Foo.
Amazing. Go look at her Instagram for just the most beautiful cakes and moon cakes. Not if you're hungry. Just caveat, don't. If you need a snack or you're craving sweets, maybe don't go there until you've satisfied that. This has been super fun. Thank you again. We're so happy that you agreed to this.
Yeah, me too.
I hope that we have a new friend.
Definitely.
Also, we want to know when you are popping up on this side of the bay so that we can come find you.
Yeah.
Keep us posted. We'll keep our followers posted. Listeners, if you would like to find us, you can find us at worstqualitycrab.com or Instagram at worstqualitycrab, and you could email us at worstqualitycrabpod@gmail.com. And until next time, we will talk to everyone later. Go eat some cake. Also, if you're not going to make the bao, go eat a cake. Get a whipped cream cake. Find your Chinese bakery. Just bring $10 and go wild. Bye.
Bye.